The day of July 8, 1947 is the day that Public Information Officer Walter Haut issued a press release. This press release would send the country, no, the world, into a complete frenzy. This was the day that the 509th Operations Group recovered a flying disc, which had crashed on a ranch near Roswell. The story was later changed to a crashed weather balloon. This means one of two things. One, this military base is full of complete idiots who couldn't tell the difference between a weather balloon and a flying disc. Or two, the original story was changed to hide the truth, that something had crashed in that field near Roswell, and the American government didn't want that information to get out. Okay, now first off, this is a massive topic to take on, so I'm just going to focus mainly on the crash itself. If it happened, known evidence, obvious skepticism, stuff like that. As the story goes, it all started when William Brazel and his son came across the wreckage. Right away, this is where the story gets split. One way, Brazel says the debris was nothing but a bunch of rubber strips, tinfoil, sticks, some really tough paper, stuff like that, and the other way, Brazel states that he witnessed a several 100-foot gouge into the ground with metal pieces scattered everywhere. Now those are two completely opposite accounts of what were supposedly made by the same person. This is where the two stories start to match again. He took some pieces of the crashed object back home with him. Later, he starts to hear stories from other people around town that flying discs were in the area, so thinking he may have just found one, he goes to Sheriff George Wilcox and tells him what happened. Sheriff Wilcox gets in touch with the Roswell Army Airfield, and soon after, a man by the name of Major Jesse Marcel and another man in plain clothes, Sheridan Cavett, go with Brazel to where the wreckage was found. Now, this is the part that's always confused me. Now, First Lieutenant Walter Haut was ordered to announce that the United States Army Air Forces has indeed recovered a flying disc. Like I said in the beginning, they expect us to believe that a member of the military can't tell the difference between a weather balloon and a flying saucer. I don't buy it. Later that day, the story changed from Roswell Base recovers flying disc to Roswell Base recovers weather balloon. There was a press conference that featured debris from the crashed object along with General Ramey and Colonel Thomas Dubose. This is the event now known as the Roswell UFO Incident. Next to no answers, just more questions, unless you believe in the weather balloon story. This incident is still a heated topic today, 70 years later, and people all over the world are still looking for the truth. The weather balloon in question has since been declassified. The American government says it was called Project Mogul. It was a secret device with the ability to detect sound waves from Soviet atomic bomb tests. If it was just a weather balloon, then why would a colonel have a statement given to the press saying that it was a flying saucer? I understand that Project Mogul was supposed to be a secret, but why say flying saucer? What would you gain from that? Could it be a tactic known as misdirection? Say one thing to scare the people into a frenzy and then go back to them saying, "Don't worry, everything is fine, it was nothing, don't worry." The people will be so grateful they won't even question it. I mean, it was pretty funny how quickly this story died as soon as everyone was told it was just a weather balloon. I mean, if they would have said immediately that the object found was just a weather balloon, I'm sure the story would have died right there. But no, they said flying saucer. Now, let's say it was a flying saucer that crashed and not a weather balloon. What evidence is there to prove that? There's some, but not a lot of what I would call definitive evidence. For example, in this photograph, during the press conference showing the weather balloon wreckage, General Ramey is holding a message. This message was blown up and many have attempted to figure out what's on it. And since photos in 1947 were not exactly in HD, it's extremely blurry. But when the settings of the photo are tweaked a bit, you can make out certain letters. And by process of elimination, you can kind of figure out what it's supposed to say. Maybe. Most of the evidence that would point towards the wreck being a flying saucer is made up of just eyewitness claims, no physical proof. I still end up right back to the beginning. Why did the Army say saucer first, then change to weather balloon? Why is it that everyone who gave testimony in 1947 stating it was just a weather balloon, Lieutenant Walter Haut, Army photographer Sergeant Frederick Benthill, PFC Elias Benjamin, his real name being Eliezer Benavidez, eventually changed their mind and now says it was a crashed flying saucer? Other military personnel as well are coming forward about their experiences at Roswell. Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso was chief of the Pentagon's Foreign Technology Desk in Army Research and Development. And he admitted to witnessing recovered artifacts from Roswell in 1947.
What I saw was at one of the air bases. Yeah, I'm not going to say where it was, but it was there. And that was it. I didn't go in it. And I say that I had a lot of information on what was inside. There was nothing I could gain by going inside and looking at it. I had the drawings, how it looked inside. I had what was in there. And really, to go in, it'd have been curiosity. And in those days, I didn't have the time for your curiosity.
There's so much more, but like I said earlier, I just want to focus on the crash. Now, if we were to take the government at their word that it was just a weather balloon, then the debate would be over. But first they said flying saucer. Why? I know that later they changed their story, but how do you get those two things mixed up? How do several military personnel get those two things mixed up? I mean, even the radio news was reporting it.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
For all this cover-up, all this conspiracy, all these lies, deceit, and mistrust, something big happened on that ranch, and it sure as hell wasn't a super secret weather balloon. So what do I think? I believe. What I think is that when the military base in Roswell saw the whatever was crashed there, of course they were startled, and they just immediately put a press release saying they recovered a flying saucer. Well, the higher-ups would eventually hear about this, and they didn't like that so much, so they wanted them to recant their story and say it was just a weather balloon. Again though, how can you mistake one for the other? Especially several high-ranking officers in the military. You can't, and they knew it. So a press conference was held, showing all this debris of what they say they found at the crash site. Instant misdirection. And then the story dies. Almost. I believe something crashed that day, and it was not from around here. Now, this is just my opinion, and I'm sure people will see it differently, but that's what I love about this. It's a complete open discussion. Tell me what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, and then don't forget to subscribe, because there'll be more videos on the way. Also, if you want, you can follow me on my Twitter. Alright, so this is Rick, and don't forget, if you can't make me believe, it's just make-believe. Thanks again.